He came to Sheffield 39 years ago to work in the steel mills, but pursued his first love of boxing on the side, first as a fighter, and then later he set up his own gym. Well, now he's indisputably the top trainer and manager in the Western world. Not only the pride of Sheffield, of course, but toasted and acclaimed wherever he goes. Well, he would be, wouldn't he? He made his name by discovering Herol Graham, and now he has no less than 3 champions in his stable, and a few more coming up. He's got Johnny Nelson, the British and European cruiserweight king, Ryan Rhodes, the British light middleweight holder, and the man himself, Prince Naseem Hamed, the man who's taken the whole of the world of boxing by storm in the last 5 years. I welcome tonight Brendan Ingle. Brendan Ingle, the question is this. It's a question you normally ask pop stars over the years. Do you pinch yourself in the morning when you get up and say, is it really true? Is it really happening?
Well, every morning, Richard, I get up, I say, thank God I'm alive, I'm in good health, I've cracked it. Everything else is a bonus.
Right, and of course, being in your job, you get up pretty early in the morning because you're in the gym,
well, I go
sparrow fart, as they say.
Yeah, I go over there about 7 o'clock with my sons, Dominic and John, and the lads come in. We train about 10 or 15 in the morning, and then the rest of the day is their own. But we're busy doing other things, and then they come in from school and from work, or the pros that we've got, and we train probably till 6, half 6, 7 o'clock.
So how many lads and boys, and indeed men, I suppose, now have you got in your gym at any one time?
We've got about 36 or 37 professionals we manage and train, but also we've got lads that come in that we train, amateurs, and we got 1 or 2 that are friends. We keep them in good condition. All
right. So when you say we, I mean, is that modest for you, or have you as a team of people there?
Well, no, the team of people is myself, my son Dominic, and my son John. My other son Brendan, he comes in part-time, he helps us out, you know. So it's more or less like a family concern. Alma covers the phone, and
that's your wife?
And that's my wife, Alma, you know, and she covers all the messages and everything else that happens, and also keeps me in line.
Now, this is the same gym in Wincobank that you set up all those years ago, is it?
Well, it is. It's the old Church of England school across the road from St. Thomas's Church. And 1960-61, when the vicar there was a lovely man called the Reverend Fred Harrington, and there was no youth work getting done around the place. Alma was the church secretary, and he asked me would I help out forming some sort of a youth club. At the time I was boxing amateur, and I says, well, you know, I'll go in and do what I can. So I went in there and I started training myself. I boxed for a club called Croft House Amateur then. But I went in there and made a sort of a makeshift gym. Had all these boys and girls. They were as mad as March hares. And I started off. And I went on from there.
It was just a case of taking them off the streets, really, and giving these boys some way of channeling their energy.
Well, it was, and also, you know, I got them in training, but also run a dance of a Sunday night for them because there was nothing happening around the place. And that was an experience in themselves, having all these teenagers, 14, 15 and 16. And we started off, we got a group playing, and it went on. We had some fantastic nights, and it all developed, the boxing, the dance and everything.
Yeah. So the world of the then maestros of boxing, the Mickey Duffs, the Jack Solomons, the Jarvis Astairs, the great promoters, and of course the great boxers of the time, you know, Henry Cooper and so on, and the international ones, even Cassius Clay Muhammad, must have seemed light years away from that rather dark and fairly dingy gym in Wincobank.
Oh, well, it was, but I'd been in the amateurs, so I travelled up and down the country, like when I come over here at 18, travelling up to Newcastle. When I go up to Newcastle, and the accent was different. When I come to Sheffield, now then the watch descent, and he rode up. It was a complete different lingo altogether.
Do you know what they were talking about?
I didn't know what they were talking about. You know, when I went over to Liverpool, so it was such an experience, all this happening to me, you know.
Well, with great respect, you have a healthy Dublin brogue there, sir. I mean, could they understand you?
Well, you know, at the time, it would be politically incorrect at the moment, but I worked at a place, a small steelworks that used to make blade knives for the paper industry, and there was a fellow there called Georgie Lomas. And when I first come over, he says, "Nah, then, where's that come from?" And I'm looking at him, thinking to myself, you know, I can't understand them. You know, where he starts, says, what do you mean? He says, where does that come from? Oh, he says, where do I come from? And I thought I spoke better English than what he did. He says, you know, he says, do you come from duck egg land? They used to call, they had this crack that they called Irish duck eggs. You know, now people would go mad, but I never took offence with it. You know, it was a whole new experience for me. And they were lovely people at this place, Alfred Beckett's. You know, I often sit back and think about it, and I think it was that impression working at Beckett's that I stopped in Sheffield.
Well, I tell you, no duck egg you. Your record speaks for itself. Let's just start at the end. Naseem, of course, Prince Naz. When's his next fight?
He boxes on the 11th of October at the indoor arena in Sheffield, and I think it's about his 8th or 9th defence of the world featherweight championship, which is at 9 stone.
This, of course, is the Prince coming home. I mean, it's a huge... He's obviously fought in Sheffield before, but never really trailing such clouds of glory. This will be a fantastic occasion, presumably.
Well, it is, because you've got 10 world title fights on, European, international, and he's topping the bill. Don't forget, you've got Steve Collins on, again the former British champion, Karl Zaki, and that is a fantastic fight in itself. But the Prince is topping the bill.
What is it about this chap? I mean, I've met him. He's 9 stone. I mean, I'm not 9 stone. To me, he looks a small, but he is a smallish guy. What is it about him that makes him such a world beater? What is it about that punch? What is it about the way he ducks and dives? I notice you always train them never to get hit. They don't like getting hit, your boys, do they?
No.
What particularly is special about this young lad?
Well, as you know, he's been with me since he was 7, but he can hit. And he can hit very, very hard for his weight. He's probably one of the hardest hitters in the world, in any weight. He can hit from
a punch.
Yeah, the punch power. But
so hard.
Yeah, and his accuracy, his mobility, his flexibility. He does everything. The people that follow orthodox boxing, he does everything wrong, but it's right.
Why? What's he do wrong? I don't understand what he
does. Well, he will. If you're orthodox boxer or whatever, you always lead off your left hand first. And if you finish off with a left hook, so you close the gap of getting hit. But he will hold his hands down here. He'll hit you from any angle, and he's very difficult to hit. And it works, but it's the way we teach. The teaching method I developed about 20-odd years ago. I come in for a lot of hassle off people because you say, you've always got to keep your hands up. I says, well, really, I says, the great fighters in the 20s and the 30s, they were very, very loose, they were very, very agile, and but they box either orthodox or southpaw. I started teaching orthodox, southpaw, switch, stand square on, or box from the side. This was 5 different ways. And Naz, when he boxed Steve Robinson in Cardiff, when he won the world title, he gave the finest display of boxing and what we teach, and people could not believe what had happened. But Naz, and we told Robinson, the management, anyone that had listened, a year before the fight, what was going to happen. I says, please God, we're alive. Don't miss this fight. And like 22,000 turned out at Cardiff Arms Park on a drizzly night, and it was a glorious night for British boxing.
And this young lad, you saw allegedly, when you were at the top of the bus had stopped at a bus stop. You saw some kids scrapping in the playground in the school, and you saw this Yemeni, you didn't know he was from Yemen then, but you saw this lad scrapping in the playground. Is that right?
That is, he was probably around 6 or 7 at the time. The bus, I live on Newman Road in a place called Winkerbank, which is a lovely place in Sheffield. It's just on the outskirts. The bus is going up Newman Road, probably around break time, sometime in the early afternoon. The bus stopped. There's a small wall, there's some railings, and I see this little fella. He looked like a Pakistani to me. He's a Pakistani lad on this side, and two or three white little lads, usually the same thing at school, and he's dodging. And I'm watching, probably 8-10 seconds, and I'm looking top of the bus watching. The bus pulled off. I went up to Fair Park, doing some shopping. I come back and I says to Alma, so I've just seen, look like a little Pakistani lad in the schoolyard. I says, his movement, I says, and it was really exciting watching him having a go. He says, I'm fed up listening to you talking about boxing